What is going on, everyone? So I got the Ebony back, and this is something I'm really excited about because I didn't realize how much I love this camera until it was in pieces. It's kind of weird because when I'm in the field, when I'm working with this camera, that is what I see. I just see the ground glass on the back. I see the image I'm setting up. I'm not thinking about the camera. I'm not thinking about all the woodwork that goes into making a camera like this and all the metal parts and how it's designed to last for so long and how it's durable and the time that goes into making it. I just kind of see it as a tool in the field. And when it was broken, I kind of saw it in a little bit of a different light. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you what ended up breaking and what it was done to get this camera up and running again. And also, quite honestly, I'm surprised that nothing else was broken in the process because there's a lot going on these cameras. And to take such a hard hit, especially with a pretty heavy lens on it, and only break really two things, I think it was kind of a miracle in that sense. But this right here, this is a rebuilt part that is, so basically, this is the part that is gonna hold, so this right here, this titanium piece on the front of the camera would mount right to the front of this, so your front standard would come up from there, and the mechanism here for the geared focus kind of screws in there. So basically, this is the tray that extends out of the front of the camera with the front standard on it to allow focusing. And this right here, there are some original parts here and there's some rebuilt parts here, and honestly, it's almost hard to tell what's what. The side rails here are original. That right there has been rebuilt. And I gotta say, if someone told me that this was rebuilt, I would have a hard time figuring out what's original. But a buddy of mine who did that work, he also fabricated a brand new one. And so if I pull the focus out here, this part that's extending here, that is the portion that has been rebuilt. And he did an amazing job. I mean, this camera is as functional as it was before. And actually, honestly, I think that in some ways it's a little bit stronger now than it was before, because I think the tolerances are actually a little bit tighter, which is pretty impressive. But that is what sort of took a hit, because at that point in time when the camera fell over, what happened is that it was set for doing wide angle. And so if I have my wide angle lens on there, the tray that is the part that broke extends out of the back of the camera like this. And it happened is the camera fell backwards and it hit one of those corners and it kind of made it into a parallelogram. And so thankfully none of the metal parts were damaged in that process. But needless to say, I'm very happy to have it back up and running again. Here's the other thing, you'd think that for this camera's like $5,000. You think a camera like that wouldn't be all squeaky when you focus it, but it's always done that since I've had it. Just one of those things you learn to love about a camera like this. The other thing that was broken, so the ground glass. The ground glass was shattered into a lot of different pieces, but I have another friend who just happened to have a spare ground glass for this exact camera, because he had one of these cameras and then ended up selling it, get another camera, but he had replaced the ground glass in his version of this camera with an even better one. So even though there are better ground glasses out there, I am very happy to have the original one, because there's just something about that I enjoy as far as kind of working with the camera, the smell of the stain on it, the smell of the leather bellows, the original ground glass. There's just something about that I do really enjoy. Couple other things broke, not really big stuff that's really easy and stuff to fix, but on the back of the camera here, there's some metal pieces that kind of come out there, which is a spring-loaded portion of the back here with the ground glass. And I do have to put some epoxy to kind of secure these guys, because those also popped out when it hit the ground. But needless to say, I am up and running again. I'm very excited to have this camera again. And it also makes me very aware of the fact that I really need to have two cameras with me when I go on these trips, because stuff can happen. I mean, my goal is to never have this happen again. I want this to be the last camera I ever use for the most part. I want this camera to last the rest of my life, but realistically, there's a lot of metal parts on there, and if a screw strips out or something along those lines, then it's gonna be really hard to use the camera, and I can't get replacement parts anymore. And it'd be very expensive to have replacement parts that are made for doing that. Especially if it happens in the field. I need to be able to get up and running again. So realistically, I do need to get myself a second 8x10 camera, and I've been kind of looking at some of the options. In a perfect world, I'd have another one of these exact cameras, to the point that if any of you watching this video happen to have an Ebony RW810 or some other Ebony 8x10, you know, super clean, mint condition, you know, hasn't hit the ground in Death Valley. But if you got a camera like that sitting around and you're not using it, you're looking to sell it, let me know, because I might be interested in that. These things, honestly, they're hard to come by. You don't see people selling these on eBay. And I'm sure if they did, they would go for a lot of money, probably near new prices. But I've been looking at some other options as well. Maybe something that is lighter, maybe something that is stronger, to give me a little bit of variety. But needless to say, I am very happy to be up and running. The ground glass, that was from my friend Shane Dignam, who's a very talented large format photographer. And then a buddy of mine in Las Vegas did all the woodwork. And I'm just incredibly happy about that. It kind of shows how you have this kind of small community in the film world, and more specifically the large format film world, a really small community. But it seems like everyone kind of has each other's back, and so something I'm very, very happy to be a part of. But glad the camera's back, and we'll see you around next week.